Hi, it's Ranbir. Welcome. This is Ranbir Puar, actually. I'm going to tell you my whole name. Thank you so much for coming and visiting me here on my YouTube channel. The theme of the work that I do here in the YouTube channel is strengthening the relationships under your roof. I know that families live in multiple homes, so it's a metaphor about strengthening the bonds within your family and really truly learning how to like your family and learn to like yourself, because it's a big deal when you start to learn to like something, because you tend to show up as your best self, because I already know you love your family. But when you can learn to like them, oh my gosh, it gets a lot more fun, and I think you'll enjoy it even more than you already do. So don't forget to hit subscribe, because then you get access to the videos as they are released every single week. And this week I want to talk to you about the idea of why it feels so uncomfortable to be alone. And I wrote about this in my podcast, because I have a podcast. It's called Living Light Radio. And I wrote about it from the adult perspective, because much of the content there is geared towards the, adult relationships and so on. But I think this one is so applicable to growing our children that I wanted to share it with you here, because right now, we've been alone for a while, right? With all the social distance and the quarantine and all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to talk to you about ancient traditions, because ancient traditions tell us that taking time alone is considered one of the most important acts of self-love. But the modern world, um, I like it's heavy sometimes to even say it out loud. I've said this sentence so many times. I share this philosophy so often, but even sometimes it just catches me off guard, because in the modern world, being alone is used as a form of punishment. You think about it. Generally speaking, the people listening to this video are parents. And what if parenting experts told us, because they're experts, right? They have told us that when our child misbehaves, you need to put them in a timeout and make them sit alone and think about their bad behavior. And the timeout is punishment for being bad. So you sit there alone as a kid and reflecting on being bad. You're isolated, you're feeling all these feelings, and it's no wonder that you carry that forward through your life. And being alone is so uncomfortable, because it's associated with something you've done that's apparently bad. And I'd like to turn that on its head. And I have been through the work that I do. I always recommend that when your child does something maybe you don't love, that maybe you don't give them a timeout, you give them that time in, you bring them in. And if you do need to separate them in the space and, go to a different space and have them sit somewhere, you sit with them. Like, sit with them. You are their safety. They don't have the tools to really go and figure all that kind of stuff out on their own at 2, 3 years old. Oh, you know, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but emotionally they feel empty and sad and like they've let you down. So I would recommend that maybe, if you have young kids, that we don't use the concept of timeout, because it's not really something that has got a lot of legs long term. So if you go fast forward and you wonder why so many of our kids are there's a lot of reasons we're struggling right now. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But one of the things we're struggling with so much is that feeling of being alone, and we're triggered, and it's a lot of it has to do with that core belief that timeout is a form of punishment. And what if we as parents started to role model, even though it's hard, tried to role model looking at this timeout that we're getting from a different perspective, and to take it as an opportunity for yourself as a parent to say, who are you really? You can use this time to be hard on yourself. You could say, I shoulda, coulda, woulda. If I'd done all this other stuff, then I wouldn't, I'd be in a better situation right now. I should have prepared for this and all that kind of stuff. Or you could use this time as, a lot of people are doing, is deep diving into the depths of the internets, the interwebs, all of it. Yuck. And it's a bottomless pit. And you start to question everything. And a lot of people are doing that. And in the post that I wrote about this in the spring, I used a quote from James Clear, and I'm going to read it to you. I'm going to read off my screen so I don't mess up the quote. Whenever we are unsure to act, we look to the group to guide our behavior. What is everyone else doing? The normal behavior of the tribe often overpowers the desired behavior of the individual, and running against the grain of your culture requires extra effort. And I think it's a really important conversation because right now, as parents, we have this opportunity to teach our children to be individuals and to be really okay with who they are and their full being and the full spectrum of who they are, rather than just following the tribe, rather than just jumping on board just because everybody else says so. I've talked about this in a previous episode. This is that time we teach them to be critical thinkers, because a true intellect isn't afraid of what he or she doesn't know. A true intellect is fascinated by the idea and strengthening their understanding, expanding understanding. There's no emotion in that. There's no like, I can't believe you like that politician, or blah, blah, you're not doing, like, there's no judgment in intellect. It's just an exploratory exercise, and it's so beautiful. So, it takes extra effort to develop yourself. And maybe that's why ancient traditions and the East says the time alone is one of the greatest acts of self-love, because you are investing in yourself. It's a big deal. You can use this discomfort to get to know who you are and what you truly want for yourself. And that does require extra effort. And the coolest thing about it is when you're doing it, you're role modeling, because that's the time when your kids are going to pay attention to you. It's in times of these sort of stressful times that kids seem to really pay close attention, because the kids are scared. And they're looking to you for answers through your body language and your behavior and your words, right? All of it. So, big stuff, big stuff. But I'd love for you to invest in yourself right now. I'd love for you to invest in taking that time alone, instead of going into the pit of your phone, into the deep web of the internet, to go into the depth of your spirit. It's got a lot to say. It's got a lot to offer to you. And it's this awesome opportunity to get to learn to know yourself and learn to like yourself. Because when you get to know your whole self, you might be really fascinated and really interested in who you are, because you're pretty cool. You got a lot of flavor. Like, you haven't even had a chance to explore all of that yet. So why not use this time and then teach your kids how to do the same thing? So it helps you really connect with your vision, your dreams, your heart, all that good stuff. And the wonderful thing about all of this sort of isolation, I know it sounds ridiculous to say that. As I say it out loud, I know it doesn't sound great. Wonderful thing. But you are forced to isolate, forced to be alone more than normal. But it's a good reminder that the only mold you need to fit is the one that belongs to your spirit. Right? Like, really, really good. And that's stuff that you can take and have it last a lifetime for you. And, the idea of being alone doesn't necessarily mean being lonely or isolated. And I think a lot of people are tying the two together right now because of their relationship with the timeout, and you're alone because you're bad behavior and all that kind of stuff, right? So being alone actually means connecting with yourself and with other people in a more authentic and meaningful way, because you become more comfortable in your own skin. Because when you are comfortable being alone, you actually feel a lot less lonely. Wah, wah, wah. Making little jokes as I go, but it's the truth. You will feel a lot less lonely when you're comfortable being alone. So you get to be true to yourself. You get to be more aligned, and that makes relationships easier. It makes it easier to be a better mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, teacher, educator, coach, whatever, sibling, anything, right? It helps you a lot. Sometimes people struggle with being alone because they've lost connection with their true selves, because they never had a chance to learn alone time to use alone time as a gift. And and I know it's happening a lot right now because of the conditioning. You're using the time alone to nitpick at yourself and to focus on all the things that are wrong with you. And that's heavy. And our kids are probably doing the same thing if we use the timeout strategies from the past, in the past. So I'd love for you to interject here and to change the dialogue, to change that conversation, because you can recondition yourself. You can swap habits. You can swap that out and change it and focus on what's right with you, what's right with your kids. Teach them how. Because this small shift in perspective now, as we're being forced to have a substantial amount of time alone, is a really great opportunity for you to grow in ways that you could probably never imagine, without pressure. Just you're making a choice. You're making a choice to beat yourself up, or you can make a choice to try to invest in some more productive thinking when you're alone. Okay, so deep breaths, deep breaths. I got to tell you, if you can't handle being alone, and if you use that time alone to really criticize yourself, then it's really, really hard to learn to like yourself. And when you don't like yourself, it's really, really hard to like other people and to show up in a way that's healthy and productive long term. You can fake it for a while, but you can't do it long term. It's not sustainable. So it's just super important to have that switch now, so you can have and maintain healthy relationships for the long haul of life. Because like attracts like. And ooh, I just hit my computer. Hello. So using this time to get comfortable with all that you are and all that you're not, because sometimes it's really cool to know that you can let go of things that don't serve you. And you can teach your children to do the same thing, because a lot of us wear a lot of different masks, and in order to please so and so and so and so and so and so. So that's another awesome thing you can get out of this time alone, is learning what you can release and let go of. And what's interesting? Some people aren't actually sure if they're uncomfortable being alone. I know I say that and I giggle, but it's really, really true. They just aren't sure, because we're so used to being told what to think and feel and believe, that we've lost touch with that sort of inner dialogue and inner sense. So I'm going to give you a few signs so you can understand if you, or maybe your child, has a hard time being alone, and that you need to roll up your sleeves and do a little bit of work. One of them is, do you have downtime? And I don't mean that overhyped self-care, like, oh, I'm doing self-care. Not that kind of stuff. I mean, like, do nothing time. Or are you, trying to be busy all the time? And number two is, do you have a hard time sitting still? Do you need to be in constant motion? And then there's another thing, because there's a lot of people that are busy all the time, but they feel like they get nothing done, right? So that might be a sign that you have a really hard time being alone. That's probably one of the top ones. And then, do you have boundaries for your work-life balance, or do you spend countless hours compulsively working or compulsively cleaning your house? Like, it's super, super important. And then 2 small steps you and your children can take to learn to be comfortable with being alone, because that part is super important. I've shared this in the past. If you follow my work, you might have heard this already before, but I make time, 2 10-minute intervals during the day to do nothing. I call it, I mean, nothing. I'm not asking you to meditate during that time. I'm not asking you to do anything other than just sit and do nothing. No device. Just sit and allow yourself to feel whatever comes up. I call this my gap break. A gap between my thoughts, my clients, my tasks, my family. And you can use this time to reconnect with yourself in a way that you can ask. The question I suggest you ask is, what do I need to know about me? Seems pretty simple, right? What do I need to know about me? And sometimes when you ask that question, you might not get the answer in words. You might feel something in your body. So pay really close attention to how your body talks to you when you ask questions like that. And then the next thing you can do is, when you find yourself making busy, trying to avoid being alone, ask yourself, why is it so hard for me to be alone? Because the reality is, whatever you're doing, you're going to be passing on to your children. So this conversation is between you and I, but it's always with the intent to impact your whole household. And it's a really good one to ask. Why is it so hard for me to be alone? And I'd love for you to try to stay neutral when you wait for that answer to come back to you, because you don't need any more excuses to beat yourself up. We've got enough of those already. We've got enough, truckloads of those. So I'd like you to use it as an opportunity to have a dialogue with your inner self, so you can clear things out and clear that space and have some mental space for you to be more comfortable inside your own skin and align with your spirit and all that good stuff. So again, you might not get the answer to that question in words. You might get it in a feeling, and just know to trust that feeling, because your intuition is trying to help guide you to the answer to that. So pay close attention to how you might feel that in your body and not necessarily just in your mind, because the truth be told, our minds are quite overloaded right now with all the internet stuff. I'm not going to say what it is. All the stuff on the internet is draining us. So because of your programming, because of social conditioning, you may have lost touch with the fact that you are separate from others. Your child is separate from you. You're separate from your partner, all that stuff, right? And we lose touch with the fact that we come and arrive into this life alone. And we leave alone as well. So why not focus that in between your arrival and departure, as that bit in between that is your joyous life, your blessed life? Why not use it to attend to yourself with kindness and compassion and understanding? But also, why not get to know who you really are in that time alone, and understand that there's something so special about you that's different and unique, that's meant to be that way, so the rest of us can get to know you and your gifts, and benefit from your blessings as well, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to unite with one another and share across the globe, if I can be so bold to say that. But I really appreciate you listening this far and tuning in again to the channel here. If you like this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends and family. It really, really helps my small little business. Share and spread love and light and just ideas and actionable items. And, shifting those perspectives one little bit at a time to help you become more comfortable in the incredible being that you are and the children that you are raising. It's pretty awesome. So if you have any comments about the idea of being alone and the difference between the East and the West, the difference between using time alone as a punishment versus one of the greatest acts of self-love that you can do, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on it in the comments below. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be here next week. Thank you.